First of all, I guess good morning. After completing my initial review of Rock Ventures' proposal, I'd like to address the next steps in our process. The Rock Ventures offer presents the county an option that warrants much deeper analysis before determining whether it's the best course of action. There are some positives in the deal, but there are many questions that need to be answered. I do like Rock Ventures' acceptance of the risk of cost overruns. We see that as a plus. The thought of 3 brand new facilities is obviously enticing to most anyone. I appreciate that Dan Gilbert and the Rock team submitted their proposal prior to our deadline, but there will not be enough time by the February 20th date for us to be able to do the complete vetting that would be necessary. I don't believe that to be a hard timeline, and it's something I think we can work past. I'm instructing my team to take the same thoughtful and deliberate approach to vetting this offer that we've done with the county's financial crisis. I want to thank my team and the County Commission for their work. 2 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to finance a used car. And now, thank goodness, we ought to be able to borrow the $300 million necessary to do either one of these deals. Our recovery plan is working, and it's how we arrived where we are today. The most critical step in our recovery plan is addressing the jail issue. It's been the albatross around the county's neck for far too long. Our residents have been staring at a demoralizing Gratiot site with $151 million of taxpayers' dollars buried in the ground. It continues to hold back this county from truly surging forward. Today, we formally submitted to the Wayne County Commission a number of contracts which will help us properly vet the Rock Ventures proposal. I know our commissioners share my concerns with protecting Wayne County taxpayers and getting the best possible solution for our residents. I look forward to their input and analysis in this process. And I've stated this offer needs greater review, and it's going to take time and effort and resources. Number 1, a stipend for Walsh with conditions. First, we're asking the Commission and the Building Authority to approve a stipend agreement of up to $500,000 with Walsh Construction to prepare a proposal in response to the RFP we issued on Friday. We can't expect Walsh to expend substantial time and resources to complete the proposal for finishing construction of the jail without them knowing they'll be justly compensated. Walsh is expected to have a proposal for us in May. There are some key dates that you will find in your media packet. We don't expect that the vetting of Rock's proposal to take any longer than Walsh's proposal to finish the RFP. We've spent the better part of 18 months working to issue the RFP, and I have no intention of slowing down the process. Perhaps, had Rock submitted an offer sooner, that might not have been the case. I've stated on many occasions I think finishing the Gratiot jail on the existing site is the most cost-effective option for us. I've yet to be persuaded otherwise. We need to continue on both tracks. It's the only prudent move for us. And while I want closure on this mess as badly as all of you do, we have to get it right. The stipend payment that I discussed a minute ago, if approved, will only be paid if the Walsh proposal is not accepted by the county. There are also conditions in the contract that prorate payment should we halt the RFP process at any time so that the county recoups some savings. If Walsh is authorized to proceed with completing the Gratiot site, the county will not be required to pay the stipend. We can also cancel or pause the RFP at any time before completion and pay only for work completed towards the preparation of that proposal. We need to offer Walsh some reassurance that their time and commitment will be adequately compensated. After all, we're closer to building on Gratiot than we are at Rock's proposal site, and I have an obligation to the people I represent to get the best possible solution. Recommendations and contracts. We are also asking the commission to modify the contract with CGL to allow for analysis of the Rock Ventures proposed jail site. We also recommend approving an additional contract with CGL to assist in vetting the Rock proposal from an operations and detentions facility approach. Our final request to the Commission will be a contract with the National Center for State Courts to assist in vetting and analyzing the court and the office programming of Rock's proposal. This is a tremendously complex proposal. So is finishing a partially built jail. We will need the expertise of CGL and the National Center of State Courts to make the best possible decision. I don't want to spend anything more on this project than we need to, but we do need to spend money on getting it right. Top concerns with Rock's proposal for administration. The recommended steps today are intended to help address the concerns I've spoken about last week with the media. Is what Rock is proposing to build on the proposed site for an estimated $420 million adequate for the county's needs? We don't know that yet. I personally have doubts that $420 million will be enough to build what we need. And I'm not talking about cost overruns. I'm talking about the amount of money needed to build the facilities that truly meet our needs. If we determine it's going to take $500 million, what then? Is it appropriate to pay Rock for any operational efficiencies resulting from the use of these new buildings? How would those be calculated? When would they be paid? And how long would the county have to pay them? And three, and finally, resolving the uncertainty of tax issues relating to the use of the jail bonds and any jail bond proceeds to build the jail on an alternative site. We must know that the $420 million proposed site will fully meet the county's criminal justice needs, and there's a lot of work left to figure that out. We also need to do our due diligence on the bond and credit issues to make sure any actions we take is in the county's best financial interest. In closing, I'd just like to make the understatement of the year. We're at a critical point in Wayne County's history. I agree with Dan Gilbert that this is a 50-year decision, but it's important to remember that we're nearly a decade into this debacle that we inherited. It will continue to cost Wayne County taxpayers for decades. Getting this right for them trumps any other concerns I have. Thank you for being here, and I'd like to take a few questions. Yes?
Yeah, Mr. Do you view this as a negotiation, or do you view this as a final decision? In other words, he comes with his proposal. Do you feel that you can counter, or is it just what he gave you and not?
Good question, and clearly a negotiation. Clearly a negotiation. This is, I see it as a starting point in negotiations. The basic structure is there, but there are a lot of details that need to be worked out, as I've mentioned in my comments. And so certainly is significant room for negotiation, and I don't know where that goes, but we think it's a serious enough proposal that we need to go down that road and see.
Mr. Evans, why was there such a question about the operational savings credit relative to what that would look like, how that would be calculated? It seems like it's almost a mystery number out there. What is the big holding point, would you say, in terms of determining what that number is?
I don't know if it's a holding point. I mean, one of the things is what's the delta to determine that? Is the delta between our operating expenses now with 3 jails, 2 of which are in bad shape, versus a new Rock Ventures jail, or is the delta what our new jail on Gratiot would look like and the difference between it and the Rock Ventures proposal? I mean, that's a big issue besides the substantive issue that I think I've had with the the chair of the commission, and, you know, that's kind of what we get in the business of building new facilities for, is to realize an operational savings. And so there are many of us that think turning any of that back is counterintuitive, and you know, so that's all part of that negotiation process. I'm not saying that Rock Ventures is stuck in the mud on any of this, but we certainly got a way to go. I hope I answered your question.
County Executive, in terms of the bonds for the current site, have you been able to determine the tax liability if you change the location of the jail?
Okay, Vicki, you asked me two questions. On the existing site, we don't have any bond liability if we finish on the Gratiot site. We don't have the same assurance if we move. And so one of the parts of this negotiation and deal has got to be, we have to have a final determination of what our tax liability is, if anything, on the new site. And we're not going to get that until we ask for it, but strategically, we haven't had a need to ask as yet, but that has to be cleared up. Because obviously that would be added to the $300 million that we have, and we don't have any more than that.
In retrospect, this was supposed to consolidate all three jails, 2,300 beds, and move on your way with your cost savings and be done. Does the Rock proposal do that, in your estimation, or can you get them there at some juncture?
That's still, you know, some negotiation area. I mean, obviously, you know, the proposal has an option to go to 2,000 beds, and evaluating the current jail population, my best guess is we probably would not immediately be able to close Division 3, so we'd be getting rid of two jails that are woefully inadequate. Division 3, or the Hamtramck jail, is probably in far better shape than the other two. Obviously, we have more operational savings if we could also close it. I can't at this point tell you we can. I do understand that the initial idea 10 years ago was to close all three jails, but you know what's happened in the 10 years. And so I don't even know if that was a logical analysis when they began it.
How long do you think it would take before you respond to this proposal?
You know, dates are always scary in a process like this. It's not just what we do, but obviously we need the commission's approval. There are processes to get to them. Not that the commission would be a holdup at all, but I mean, it just factors in the equation. A few months, a couple of months. What I am sure of is that when Walsh is able to give us a cost and a response to the RFP, we will have had this vetted. So remember, we're going down two tracks. We haven't slowed up one. And so at least by the time Walsh responds to the RFP, we will have vetted significantly, and we'll be done with the vetting process on Rock, and we'll be able to make a decision one way or the other.
And that's the May date you referenced?
Yeah, I think May, no later than May, yeah.
County Executive, if this falls through, if Rock Ventures walks away, what happens? Do you guys go back to this plan? Is there plan A?
If Rock Ventures walks away, I think we're still on course for our original plan all along, which was to finish on this site with Walsh. I mean, one thing we're not going to do is stop and get stuck in the mud, you know, while we're vetting a proposal. Strategically, that makes absolutely no sense to us, and we do understand that there's a timeline here to get this done. Not a timeline that's firm in history, but a timeline in terms of, you know, this has been stuck long enough, and it's something we've all been working on for upwards of 18 months now.
All right, we've got time for one more question.
Do you know how much you would have to put into, if this deal with Rock Ventures goes through, you know how much you would have to put into the current facilities for those additional years it would take to build the new facility?
No, Vicki, I don't. I know we would have to put significant money in the courthouse on the short term. There is money that needs to go into both of those jails. The sad commentary is no money has been put in them for years because the idea was that the other jail would be completed, but I don't know exactly what that'll be. I mean, we've looked at it. It's kind of a part of an analysis. But the biggest thing is as soon as we can close those two down and be in a new facility, we'll be dollars ahead significantly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.